A very good morning, everyone in the Philippines, and those of you joining us from other parts of the world. A good evening, a good afternoon, and welcome back one more time to our episodes of the series Stay Home, Skill Up. In order to kickstart our event today, which is episode number 3, I would like to introduce you all to Edrelin, our Division K Director, Toastmaster Edrelin Paul. Toastmaster Edrelin, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rafiq. As Division K Director, I officially open this webinar. Now let us welcome our host for this morning. Let us welcome Toastmaster Rafiq Ahmed.
All right, thank you very much, Division K Director Toastmaster Edrelin, once again for giving us this opportunity to bring to our Toastmasters community in the Philippines, in District 75, in Division K, and also connecting Toastmasters across the world to benefit from the Stay Home Skill Up series. Our speaker today is a Toastmaster for the last 32 years, a distinguished Toastmaster. He is the world champion of public speaking 1992, and he has also been awarded the title by Toastmasters International of an accredited speaker. Now, those of you who do not know this, but our speaker was the only speaker to have the World Championship title and the title of being the accredited speaker until 2016. And until this day, we have yet only 2 Toastmasters who have been able to achieve this. And one more thing to note is our speaker, after winning the World Championship of Public Speaking in 1992, in just 1 year's time, in 1993, became the accredited speaker. Our speaker believes that every one of us will have a moment in our life where we will have the question which we will ask ourselves as to what we have contributed to the world. And with that belief and with that discipline and with that motto in life, I would like to quickly introduce to all of you our 1992 World Champion of Public Speaking, Toastmaster Lamon.
Thank you, Rafiq. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, I joined Toastmasters in 1988. And when I joined Toastmasters, I joined to work on my speaking skills. But very shortly after joining, I had the opportunity to attend a district conference. I was going there to support one of our club members who was in the international speech contest. And when I watched that contest, I was hooked. I said, wow, this is great. I thought to myself, one day I am going to compete in the World Championship. And I figured, knowing the Toastmasters program, maybe 5 years. I'll give myself 5 years to learn all of the things that Toastmaster teaches, and then I will compete. Now that was 1988, 89. In 1990, my wife was looking at the schedule of where the contests would be held. Now back in those days, we had 6 levels of competition. Level 5 was the regional competition. And the regional competition would travel from district to district. Every district rotated on hosting the conference. And she looked and she said, this year, the regional conference is in Honolulu, Hawaii. Dana, I think this is your year. So in 1990, I entered the International Speech Contest for the first time. And I met with some success. Club level, first place. Area level, first place. Division level, first place. District level, 3rd place. I was stopped at that point, and I did not have the chance to go to Honolulu, Hawaii that year. But I was bitten. And I decided next year I'm going to enter the contest again. Now, when I announced to the club that I was going to enter the contest in 1991, nobody else wanted to compete. So club level, that wasn't a challenge. It was, they said, okay, Dana's going. He's going to represent us in the area. And I met with success. Area, first place. Division, first place. District, first place. Region, it wasn't in Honolulu, Hawaii. It was in San Diego, California. Region, first place. And so in 1991, I went to the World Championship of Public Speaking, which was held in Atlanta, Georgia. And I came in second place. And I was very happy about coming in second place. There was nothing wrong with second place to me. But people who had attended the conference called me from different places in the country. They called and said, Dana, I think you should do it again. I wasn't convinced that I should do it again. I mean, it is hard work to prepare and practice for a speech in the World Championship. And again, back in those days, you had to have 3 speeches. One speech that carries you to district, a different speech for region, and if you win region, a different speech for the World Championship. So 3 speeches you had to have, and I had done that successfully in 1991. I was content, but I was watching with my family the video of the 1991 contest. My family didn't have a chance to be there because just 5 days before the contest, my 4th child was born. So my wife didn't have a chance to attend Atlanta. So when the video came, we watched it together. And in that speech from 1991, I mentioned my 2 youngest children, Anton and Linnea. After the video was over, my 2 oldest children, Dana and Winter, who were ages 7 and 6 at the time, said, Dad, you didn't mention us in your speech. Now here's where Table Topics comes in very handy. I had to have a response to those 2 children, so I said, that's because the speech about you I saved for next year. So I was thus committed to compete again in 1992. So 1992, I announced that I would enter the International Speech Contest, and I had no problem at the club level. Why? Because I was the only contestant. Nobody else wanted to compete. But I met with success. Area level, division level, district level, regional level, World Championship in 1992, and I came in first place at all levels. Now, the guy who came in second place to me in 1992 came up to me and he said, you know, Dana, I was convinced that I was going to beat you. Now, I wasn't concerned about the fact that he had a notion that he was going to beat me. What concerned me is he was convinced. So I asked, what made you so sure? And he said, well, listen, when I won my regional competition, I wanted to know who else was competing. And when I saw your name, I bought the video from the 1991 contest and I watched that video. I played it over and over again. And I thought, I can do better than that. So I said to him, here's where you made your mistake. I too had a copy of the 1991 video and I played it over and over again. I listened to my voice, I listened to my message, and I thought, I can do better than that. So while you prepared to beat the 1991 Dana Lamon, you were actually competing against the 1992 Dana Lamon. Now, I shared that story to lay the foundation for the presentation for this evening. Greatness is your being, Excellence is your doing. I want to talk about excellence because if you're committed to excellence, that's when you'll get the greatest success out of your Toastmasters experience or out of any other project or endeavor that you pursue. You must be committed to success. And I want to set out 6 principles that I think will manifest themselves if you commit yourself to success. Those 6 principles are improvement, development, movement, tenacity, possibilities, and adjustments. And I just gave the last 2 out of order. We're going to talk about adjustments before we talk about possibilities. So let's begin with the first principle on improvement. And I label this for principle number 1. To excel is to do better today than you did yesterday. I've had the chance to travel around the world and give presentations to Toastmasters, to corporations, to other organizations. And invariably, I find organizations and people willing to talk about excellence, but they don't always agree on what excellence is. Sometimes simply they state they're not certain what it is. Sometimes it's from listening to them define excellence and hearing the different definitions. If I'm going to encourage you to be committed to excellence, I want to encourage you to know what excellence is before you commit to it. But let me state what excellence is not. Excellence is not perfection. You can be committed to excellence and still make mistakes. But a commitment to excellence says that you will learn from those mistakes. Excellence is not a destination or a target. You know, very often I hear people say, we are striving for excellence. Well, when you use the terminology striving for excellence, it suggests that excellence is over there and I've got to work out a way to get to it. And it might be a struggle, but we will get to it. I believe that the correct language is striving in excellence. Excellence has to be a commitment that you make at the beginning of a project, because if you do not begin the project with a commitment to excellence, there's no way that excellence can be the end result. So excellence is the process, not the destination. And third, excellence is not to be the best. So often people are concerned about being the best. But when you seek to be the best, you are actually subjecting yourselves to the judgment of someone else. Someone else has to judge you and compare you to someone else to determine which one of you is the best. Now, excellence is not to be the best. Excellence is to do your best. That's all that anyone can ever ask of you, to do your best. If you focus on being the best, you'll look at someone else's performance. You might look at your colleague and what they're doing, or fellow student and see what they're doing. You might look at your predecessor and see what they're doing and try to do better than they did. That's not going to reach excellence, because your colleague, your fellow student, your fellow classmate, your predecessor could be doing a lousy job. And you can do a better job and it'd still be a lousy job. You've got to commit yourself to excellence and commit yourself to continual improvement on your own performance. In our Toastmasters program, we have a established way to find that improvement, and that is our speech evaluations. And when you give a speech, someone's going to be assigned, or a group's going to be assigned to evaluate and give you feedback on how you might get better. Now, sadly, sometimes the feedback is weak. We get evaluations that aren't as strong as they ought to be. Someone might praise you and tell you how wonderful you are. I heard an evaluation once. A guy was giving an evaluation to a fellow Toastmaster who was giving her fifth speech from the beginner's manual, fifth speech. And everything that he pointed out, he went right down the list. Your voice, exceptional. Your gestures, exceptional. Your movement about the stage, exceptional. Everything she did was exceptional. Well, where's the room for improvement if you're already at an exceptional level? But the feedback is important. As we develop as speakers, we need to know how our listeners heard us. But what's also important, if you are committed to excellence, is that you evaluate yourself. Self-evaluation. Because only you know these two things. One, what you intended to do. And two, did you give your best effort toward doing that? Did you give your best effort? Only you will know that. Only you will know whether you stretched as far as you could possibly stretch. Only you will know whether you reached deep inside of you to get the strongest effort, the greatest energy that you possibly could give. So your self-evaluation is very important. And you join Toastmasters, you pay your dues to improve. I suggest to you that every time the Toastmasters calls for additional dues, do a self-evaluation and ask, have I improved? Have I achieved what I set out to do? And you don't have to apply this only to your Toastmasters experience, but in all your experiences. Have I improved? Because that first principle that will manifest itself when you're committed to excellence is improvement. But remember, excellence, or to excel, is to do better today than you did yesterday. That's all we can ask of you. The next principle is development. And I'm going to call that principle number 70. Now, it may seem strange. I go from principle number 1 to principle number 70, but there's a method to my madness. These principles on excellence that I'm offering to you are from the second book that I wrote and published called The Excellence Book, 104 Principles for Living and Working. So I gave you principle number 1. Now I'm giving you principle number 70. Excellence seeks to discover and develop your hidden and unused talents. I believe that everybody is here on this earth for a purpose. We were placed here to make a contribution to our surroundings, to the people that we interact with. And that purpose is within our talents and abilities. You're not asked to do more than what you're able to do. But do you know who you are? Have you developed your talents and abilities? It doesn't matter at what age you are currently, you can still ask that question. I didn't join Toastmasters until I was 36 years old. I didn't compete in the World Championship until I was 39 years old. I had already started working as a judge. But I discovered there were other things that I was capable of doing and having an impact on the world around me. So developing your talents and abilities should be an ongoing process. And to do that, you should always learn, keep learning new things, because as you learn new things, you discover where you might have had talents that were unused, and here's a chance for you to use them. But not only should you keep learning, you should always be willing to try new things, to extend yourself into new territory. If someone asks you to do something, you don't approach it by saying, oh, well, I don't know, I've never done that before. Because everything that we're capable of doing today, there was a time when we would say, or we could say, I've never done that before. There's always that first time. But in developing your talents and abilities, you also must be willing to take risks. Do things that you're not quite uncertain about. You're not quite certain about. You are uncertain about it. You don't have to know 100% what the results will be, but try it and see what turns out. And you might find, listen, this is for me. This is something I like to do, and I just need to get better at doing it. You know, I got involved in Toastmasters because a friend, Maurice, asked me to give a speech at his wedding. Now, asking me to give a speech wasn't anything new for me. I had been speaking at schools when they sponsor career days and they want someone to come in, a lawyer to come in, or a judge to come in and talk about their career. I've been doing that. I'd been speaking at churches. So for me, Maurice to call and say, I'd like for you to give a speech at my wedding, that wasn't anything new. But what Maurice said is, I'd like for you to give a humorous speech. I was preparing a very serious speech about communication and holding a marriage together, and he wanted me to give a humorous speech. Well, I lost sleep over that. And my wife, witnessing that, said, you know, Dana, you should join Toastmasters. Now, that was new to me. Well, I'll tell you what, it wasn't actually totally new to me. 10 years before, a young lady that I was on a committee with had mentioned Toastmasters. And I said, what is Toastmasters? And she said, oh, never mind, you wouldn't be interested. So in 1978, I had a chance to learn about Toastmasters, and I didn't because Chris didn't tell me about it. But in 1988, when my wife mentioned it, we looked in the newspaper and there was a meeting scheduled for that day. So I visited the Toastmasters meeting. And as I said, I joined in 1988. Well, I witnessed the World Championship. And I said, oh, I'm going to do that. And then as I was pursuing the World Championship, someone said, you know what? You should go into professional speaking. Really? I considered it. I talked to some people who were in professional speaking. I said, oh, okay, I can do that. And then someone asked me after they heard a speech, they said, do you have anything in writing? I learn better if I can read it. And oh, okay, I'll start putting what I talk about in writing. And I started a publishing company and did my first book in 1997. And since then, I've done 4 books. And someone said, do you have anything recorded? I'd like to listen to this over again. So I developed, and this will tell you how far back it goes, cassette tapes that I could sell and VHS that I could sell. We might have some listeners on the call who don't know what cassette tapes and VHS are. So I moved to CDs and DVDs. But all of this is just a development. It's a pattern of growing because you see what talents you have and how you can develop them and use them. When you're committed to excellence, you're willing to develop those talents. And I encourage you, as you consider your experience in Toastmasters or otherwise, look at yourself. What talents might you have that are hidden? What talents have you demonstrated a little bit, but they could use some honing? Develop those talents. That's what you will do when you're committed to excellence. The next principle is on movement, and it's principle number 9. Is it? No, it isn't. It's principle number 32. Principle number 32. Excellence welcomes change. Excellence welcomes change. Now, this is an ideal principle to talk about in the circumstances that we are currently in. But I have to mention the fact that not everybody welcomes change. There's something about our human nature. We look for comfort. We want things to be comfortable. We find a comfortable chair to sit in so we can listen to this presentation that Dana's going to give and participate with District 75 and Division K. We want our cars to be comfortable, our homes to be comfortable. We want security at our job. We want the comfort of knowing that we're going to have a job to go to, a paycheck that we can earn. Comfort is what we seek. So when change comes about, there are people who are not interested in that change. And what they'll do, they'll just adjust their position and get comfortable again, because that's what they want. Then there are other people, when they are faced with change, they want to push back. They want to resist change. They don't want it to happen. They're satisfied with where they are, and they resist that change. But if you're committed to excellence, you're willing to accept that change. Some people say embrace that change. I say welcome change, because in change, you can find opportunity. With change, you have a chance to move in a different direction, perhaps. About now, it's been 17 years ago, my wife approached me and she said, "Dana, I've been thinking about going to college." Now, she had been in college. She had gotten a degree in sociology. She had gone to law school and was raising the children. But she said, "I've been thinking about going to college." And I said, "Great. What do you think about studying?" She says, "Oh, I want to study creative writing." I said, "Oh, that's great. And where are you going to apply?" She said, "Well, actually, I've already applied." I said, "That's great. When will you hear?" She said, "Well, I've already heard." And I said, "Oh," and she told me that she had applied to Indiana University and had been accepted. Now, my response was still, "That's great." Even though we lived in Lancaster, California, Indiana University. I said, here's what can happen. You know, the two oldest kids, they will already be in college themselves. The two younger kids can stay here with me. You could go to Indiana University and get your degree. And she says, "Well, no, I think I want to take the two younger kids with me." I said, "That's great. You can take the two younger kids with you. But we're going to have a family meeting. Whenever we have something major like this, we have to call a family meeting." So I call a family meeting, you know, and my son, Anton, who was 14 years old at the time, he come running downstairs and he said, "Dad, we can't have a family meeting." And I said, "Why can't we have a family meeting?" He said, "Because the whole family's not here." Linnea, who was the youngest at the time, she's at her friend's house at a sleepover. And Jackie said, "I'll go get Linnea. We're going to have a family meeting." So while Jackie was out getting Linnea, I sat at the dining table where I usually sit for a family meeting. Anton sat opposite me and he said, "Hey, Dad, what's the family meeting about?" I said, "Anton, I can't tell you what the family meeting's about. You'll have to wait till your mom gets here and everybody's sitting here at the table and we'll talk about the family meeting." He said, "Come on, Dad. You can tell me. I won't tell anybody." And I said, "No, Anton, you can wait and hear about it when everybody else hears about it." He said, well, I tell you what, Dad, if it has anything to do with moving, I'm all for it. Now, I was stunned by this because Anton was born in Lancaster, California. He lived in the same house. We had never talked about moving. We had never talked about moving his bedroom. It's the same bedroom he had lived in all his life. And where did he get this notion about moving? So I asked, Anton, why are you so willing to move? And he said, Dad, don't you know, when you change your environment, you change your opportunity. And I said, wow, that's deep stuff. And I started searching my mind. You know, I had taken my kids to speeches that I'd given. So I'm trying to figure out, what speech did I give in which I said that? That's deep stuff. And I couldn't think. I couldn't figure out, where did I hear that? And there it was, wisdom from a 14-year-old. When you change your environment, you change your opportunity. And you know, Anton found that to be true. He went to Indiana with his mom. And Anton's a dancer. So I should give a little background. He's a dancer. And while he was here in California, he tried out to be a dancer on the basketball team for the women's basketball, the Sparks, the LA Sparks. And he was rejected. When he got to Indiana, he decided to try out for the Indiana Fever. And he was accepted. So that was his summer jobs when he was in high school in Indiana. He danced for the Indiana Fever. He demonstrated that when you change your environment, you change your opportunities. And that's why I talk about movement here. When you're committed to excellence, you're committed to movement, a willingness to change, to find opportunity if need be. But if the circumstance around you change, you find in those circumstances your opportunity. You know, all over the world, whether it's the Philippines or it's the United States or it's Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, Brazil, Canada, doesn't matter what part of the world we find ourselves, Kenya, Nigeria, we are experiencing a global pandemic, a situation that forces us to stop what we're doing. We're stopped in our tracks. We're locked down. And it's an opportunity to evaluate, to reflect. Here's a changed circumstance, radically changed for everybody. And how can we find opportunity in this change? I suggest to you that the greatest benefit that you'll get out of this situation is to find an opportunity. And let me read to you what I wrote, a little segment of what I wrote in my first book, The Soul's Mirror, Reflections on the Fullness of Life. And I want to read this because, you know, every chance that you get to do something is not necessarily an opportunity. I remember when I first passed the bar exam and became a lawyer, there was another lawyer who offered me a chance to work with him. He said, I'd like for you to work with me. And he did taxes. And I was interested in tax law at the time. But I researched the guy and found out, you know, because I was very curious because he said he was a lawyer, but he didn't want to do the legal part of anything. That's what he said to me. He said, I'd like for you to do the law part. I'll do the accounting part. But as I researched him, I found out why he didn't want to do the legal part. He had been suspended from the bar. And I decided that was not the best situation for me to partner up with someone. I'm a new lawyer, a new member of the bar, probably not a good idea to to hook up with someone who's been suspended from the bar. So I say that opportunity is not just a chance to do something. Opportunity only works if it fulfills your purpose. So let me read a little bit of what I wrote about opportunity. And this is written in the first person because these were reflections that I had from my experiences. Opportunity is a combination of circumstances that is favorable to my purpose. To recognize it, I must be fully aware of my purpose, of my goals, and of my objectives. When I am presented with a set of circumstances, I should not label it as good or bad, positive or negative, beneficial or adverse. Instead, I should simply study carefully the situation to find how it can be used to achieve my purpose. Perhaps the circumstance suggests that I modify my goals and objectives. An event that sets me back may be a mere adjustment in my schedule so that the ultimate timing of my completion is right. Maybe the situation is the necessary forerunner of what is vital to my ultimate success. In short, every day and each event of my life is the right time and an opportunity for me to move in the direction of my goals. When I accept that, nothing that I face will stop me from getting what I want or from being who I want to be. So remember, when you're committed to excellence, you're committed to movement forward, even in the midst of change. Our next principle is tenacity. And it's principle number 9. A commitment to excellence prompts you to push a little harder in the face of opposition. You see, when you're committed to excellence, it's not a commitment to everything going your way or everything being easy. You will still encounter opposition. But when you're committed to excellence and an opposition comes, it's just the incentive for you to summon the will, to muster up the strength, to push forward in the face of opposition. You know, when I was younger, I was going to mention the age, and I'll go ahead and mention the age. When I was in my early 20s, I used to play basketball with a friend of mine named Frank. Frank and I would go to the church parking lot, and in the church parking lot, there was a basketball set up. And Frank and I would play basketball. Now, you might wonder, how does a blind guy play basketball? Well, what we would do is Frank, who was about 6'2", would stand underneath the basket and he would shout, right here, right here. And I would know in which direction to shoot the ball. And we had a net. I mean, I could hear it when the ball swished into the net. So, and as the ball bounced, I could hear it and I could follow it, catch it, chase it. And so that's the way we played. And every Saturday we would get together and we would play basketball, and we would be out there until I successfully made 50 shots. That was the goal. One day I was out playing basketball with Frank, and I was poised to shoot one of my high percentage shots. I was about 10 feet straight away from the basket. And the pianist for the church, it was a young lady named Wanda. She was walking by to go practice piano. And she said, "Dana, can you make a basket?" Now, when I heard the doubt in her voice, that really kind of ticked me off. What do you mean, can I make the basket? Of course I can make the basket. And I thought I should just shoot this ball right now and show her how I can do it. And then I had this second thought. She's single. I'm single. It's time to impress. So instead of shooting that ball into the basket, I knew it was one of my high percentage shots. I decided to dribble away from the basket. I walked away about 25 feet away. I didn't walk straight away. I walked over to the corner of the court. And I turned and I was about to shoot. And Frank said, "Right here, right here. But if you want to impress her, you better come within your range." So then, now Frank has ticked me off. Wanda doubts me, Frank doubts me, and I couldn't understand why Frank doubts me. Frank has seen me shoot the basket. He knows what he can do. He's seen me dribble the ball. He has seen me turn around and throw the ball behind my back into the basket, because after all, I can't see anyway, so what difference does it make which way I face? And Frank doubts me. So this caused me to really push. I mean, I could feel the energy in my ankles, in my knees, in my hips, in my shoulder, my elbow. I'm going to give it all the push that I possibly can. And I shot that ball. And as I let it go, I thought to myself, hit something, hit the backboard, hit the rim, hit Frank. I don't care, hit something. And I heard it. Swish, it went right into the basket. And I knew what I had done, because Frank is walking away saying, "I don't believe it. I don't believe it." And I'm thinking too, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But it was that extra push. When you're committed to excellence and opposition is there, when people doubt you, when they say you can't do it, and then you push with all of the energy that you have, because you're committed to excellence. That is the tenacity that manifests itself. So don't worry about the opposition. Don't worry about the difficulties. When you're committed to excellence, just reach down a little deeper and find the thing that is within you that can keep you on your path. The fifth principle is on adjustment. And principle number 66. This happens to be my favorite principle, principle number 66. It says, excellence makes adjustments where mediocrity makes excuses. I became blind when I was 4 years old. It was from an accident that I had falling on the back of my head, and that caused complete blindness. I had surgery on one eye that restored sight, because the doctors discovered that I had retina detachment. So they reattached the retina in the right eye. I was able to see. But over time, I lost sight in that eye. And throughout my life growing up with a visual impairment, I heard people say, "He's blind, he can't. He's blind, he can't." Because that's what people on the outside, people who have their sight, they can't quite see how someone who doesn't have sight can actually do what they do. Well, I had this golden opportunity then to make excuses. A golden opportunity, because the people around me didn't expect me to be able to do anything. But I wouldn't let blindness be an excuse. Well, okay, I'm gonna have to tell the truth here, because this is a message going around the world and somebody might be able to research it. I did a couple of times slip into that, using it as an excuse. You know, when you read Braille, you read with these two fingers, your two index fingers. And And I remember there was an occasional time when my teacher in high school wanted to know if I had done my assignment, and I hadn't done it. And my excuse was it was too cold. My fingers were too cold and I couldn't feel the braille. And then when I was in law school, I'll tell you, in law school, yeah, I was a first year law school, and the professor, you've been in college, you know, the professor looks at a seating chart and they call on people based on the seating chart. They don't really know who they're calling on. And my contracts professor called me and he says, Dana Lamon? And I figured that was me. It was pretty close to Dana Lamon. And I said, yes. He said, can you tell us the facts in Harvey v. Baxendale? Now, that was a case we were supposed to have read, but I hadn't read it yet because it was early on in the semester. And the way I proceeded in law school was to find out what textbooks we would be using. I would buy 2 copies of those books, send it to an organization called Recording for the Blind. They used volunteers to record the book, and then they would send the tapes back to me. Well, the tapes had not come back. They had not finished recording the book. So I didn't have the chance to read Harvey v. Baxendale. And so I told the professor, I said, sorry, sir, I didn't have a chance to read. And I explained to him the whole process as I just did with you. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Will you let me know when the book comes? And I thought, are you kidding me? You're not going to call on me until the book comes? And I'll tell you, that was, what was that, 46 years ago? As far as that professor knows, I'm still waiting for that book to get here. There was no way I was going to tell him when that book came, because then he would call on me. But for the most part, I try not to use blindness as an excuse. Because when we make excuses, we give ourselves license to either not try or to quit. So think about, what excuses have you been making? Has age been an excuse? Financial situation been an excuse? Has your gender, disability, education level? Don't make excuses. If you're committed to excellence, you simply make adjustments to those situations. COVID-19 should not be an excuse. It is just a reason to make adjustments. So remember, when you're committed to excellence, principle number 66, excellence makes adjustments where mediocrity makes excuses. And now the 6th principle. The 6th principle is on possibilities. And principle number 95 says, the realm of possibilities and the field of uncertainty occupy the same space. The difference is in how you approach them. You see, if you see uncertainty, you may approach it with hesitance, with that unwillingness to really go forward. But when you see possibilities, you're willing to say yes to the possibilities. Say yes to the possibilities, because once you say yes to the possibilities, then the only thing that remains is to figure out, how can I make it happen? Several years ago, this was back in 1998, I had a chance to say yes to possibilities that made a significant difference in my career and my profession as a speaker. I got a call. I remember quite distinctly. It was August 31. It was about 10 o'clock that morning. I got a call from a woman in Washington, D.C. She worked for the Department of Health and Human Services. And she told me that they were organizing a series of conferences around the country to talk about the benefits, the lessons learned from welfare reform. There was welfare reform in the United States back in 1996, and they wanted to have conferences with all of the persons involved in social services programs to see what lessons were learned. And they wanted to conclude each conference with a motivational speaker. She said to me, well, we're going to be in different parts of the country. We want to get a different motivational speaker to close out each conference. And our first conference is in Denver, Colorado. Someone on our committee said, you should get Dana Lamon. So we're calling to see, are you available on Friday, September 18, to give a motivational speech in Denver, Colorado at 11 a.m. I said, yes, I'm available. I mean, after all, my calendar was empty that day. Well, 30 minutes later, I got another call. It was from a speakers bureau. The speakers bureau says, I have a client in Santa Monica, California, that needs a motivational speaker, and I need to know, are you available to give a motivational speech in Santa Monica on Friday, September 18 at 4 p.m.? I said, yes, I'm available. I said, yes. And then after I hung up the phone with her, I called United Airlines to make sure that I can fly from Denver back to Los Angeles so I could be in Santa Monica at 4 p.m. I considered, well, the flight's not that long. If they have a scheduled flight, I could get to the airport. Given the time change, I could get to LAX, and Santa Monica's not far from LAX. I could get there. I could do it. Yes. I said yes to the possibilities. And then I immediately found myself looking for the way to make it happen. Well, I was quite fortunate that I did that because it turns out that the presentation in Santa Monica did not take place. And so I was able to do the presentation. And so I have to correct something. It turns out the presentation in Santa Monica was the one first scheduled. It was the Denver one that came second. But it was good that I said yes to both, because the one in Santa Monica did not take place. I went to Denver and I spoke. And I actually I can still to this day, I can trace back speaking engagements that I have in different parts of the country that emanated out of my speaking in Denver. So saying yes to the possibilities, you never know where it leads, but you say yes. And when you say yes to the possibilities, then imagination is unleashed. Your creativity is activated. Your action is initiated, and negativity is avoided. You say yes to the possibilities and you find the way to make it happen. A commitment to excellence manifests these 6 principles: to improvement, to development, to movement, to tenacity, to adjustments, to possibilities. I first became committed to excellence way back when I was a teenager. And it was because of one of my neighbors, Maud Riley. When I was about 14 years old, I used to go visit Maud. And I was happy to visit Maud because unlike most people in the neighborhood who said he's blind, he can't, Maud Riley took a different approach. She said he can, and she gave me things to do. Maud, when I go visit her, if she were washing dishes, here, Dana, come and help me do the dishes. You know, you can dry and I'll wash. If she were working in the garden, in the flower bed, she says, let me show you the weeds. And she showed me the difference between the weeds and the plants, and I could pull weeds. Or she put a pair of pruning shears in my hand. She said, let me show you how to clip the rose bush. And one day, even she was painting, and she gave me a paintbrush and said, here, I want you to paint. Well, every time Maud Riley gave me a job to do, she quoted a poem. And it's that poem that has become a part of my character, my being, my commitment to excellence. She said, Dana, if a job is once begun, leave it not until it's done. Be the task great or small. Do it well or not at all. That was the poem that became the seed that was my commitment to excellence. So remember, fellow Toastmasters and guests, commit yourself to excellence. And the key thing is understanding that excellence is a process. It is the commitment that you begin. And when you commit yourself, then you've committed yourself to improvement, development, movement, tenacity, adjustment, and possibilities. Mr. Moderator.
Toastmaster Dana, well, I am just flabbergasted by the way that you speak. It's like reading a book, and I really don't know how you do it. Every sentence, every word you say is perfectly set in its right place. So I think it's an art which is perfected not in a year's time or 2 years' time. It takes 32 years.
32 years, yes, yeah, 30.
Now I really speak for myself and for everyone, because I was noticing every single word that you speak is perfectly placed, and not just at this event, at the past events that I have witnessed you speak, and all your videos as well. So what we take from your learning, your wisdom today is this: when someone says you can do it, push with all your force. Say yes to possibilities. Don't make excuses, make adjustments. And that's a lot to take. I mean, it's like you just opened the tap of wisdom and you said, take as much as you can in this short duration. And really, really an honor, and love to have you here. And I am in fact feeling sad if we have to end this event, because I think 1 hour or 2 hours is not enough to squeeze all the wisdom that you have to offer, Toastmaster Dana. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Such an honor. Such an honor, sir. Such an honor and learning experience. On that note, what we will do now, Toastmaster Dana, is we will open for a short while questions from the floor from our lovely audience. And to kickstart this Q&A session, we have a reactor with us, a Toastmaster, who will kickstart the session by first sharing the feedback of the workshop that you've just presented, followed by the first question addressed directly to you. And to do so, we have with us, joining from District 75 in the Philippines, fellow Toastmaster Lourdes Cruz. Toastmaster Lourdes, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Wow, that was great. It was awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
World champion. My God, Dana. So I am honored and privileged to be your reactor. Before the question, I would like to just commend on what you have said regarding this, the improvement, the principles in greatness, in excellence, in what you are doing. First one is improvement. So do excel today, be better today than yesterday, and that was really awesome. It is also my principle, because in the past, somebody told me, how are you today? And then I am the same yesterday. And then somebody in the religious community told me, you should be better yesterday. You should be better today than yesterday. It's a principle. Oh, because of that, I already heard that, and I heard it. You hammered it. And thank you so much for your sharing on that.
Yes.
And I like when you said that excellence is not a destination. So it is a commitment to become better each day. So I love it. Thank you so much. And excellence is development, to seek and discover your untapped talents or unused talents. Oh, I believe so. At 55, I have still untapped talents and I'm looking forward to it. And it is a process. So it is an ongoing process. I believe when I invited someone to become a Toastmaster and he said, "Hey, I'm 62, I do not need that and I cannot be a Toastmaster anymore." And when I invited him to listen to my speech, and then he was really hammered on Toastmaster, and he became our president in the Toastmasters Club. So oh my God, I really love it when you said it that way. So this one is new for me. Movement. When you want change, I was hammered about your 14-year-old, the wisdom that he said, change the environment will change your opportunities. That is new to me. So thank you so much for sharing the wisdom of your 14-year-old. Congratulations for that. And tenacity. It is someone that you to summon your will, to hit something to your limit. So master up that strength. So I was kind of glued to it and I would like to hear more of it. Actually, I am excited to read your book on excellence. The fifth one is adjustment. So wow, blindness is not an excuse. So at my age is not an excuse for me to do better next time. So I love it when you said that this COVID-19, it should not be an excuse for us. So the lockdown will never hinder us to grow more and to be better each day. And the sixth possibility, the possibilities. Wow. Yes to all the possibilities. And hearing that from you is really gives me that kind of motivation that I really need, because sometimes I have anxieties with what is going on around. So what I learned from you this morning is that I should be committed in making myself better every time and to make that excellence in me, to be committed to become excellent in everything that I do. I would like to know if was there any time that you have not had any negativity, or you just do not allow negativity because first and foremost there is excellence in you, so it has overpowered you. What about the circumstances that are coming your way?
I have faced times when I've been negative, where negativity would take over. That I think that's natural. When I was in college, my first year at Yale, I thought about quitting. It was a big change for me to move from Southern California to Connecticut and leave all my friends. But because I committed to completion, but here's the real thing. The reason why I completed Yale is Yale doubted my ability to do it because I was blind. So I felt that if I actually quit after the first year, it would ruin it for all other blind people after that. That Yale would say, yeah, we had a blind guy and he quit after the first year. So I stuck it through the first year and then loved it the second and third and fourth year. That was a great lesson for me because I taught my kids the same thing. All four of my children went to college and all four of them wanted to quit or change schools after their first year. And I said, no, after the first, let's make it through the first year and then we'll talk about it. And none of them actually changed after the first year. So, and then there was a time when I was working as a professional speaker and I considered quitting working as a professional speaker. Back in the days, you send out press kits. And I remember 1 month I sent out 40 press kits after talking to people on the telephone, and it looked like positive possibilities of getting a speaking engagement. I sent out 40 press kits. None of them materialized into an actual speech. And so I thought about quitting. I mean, I actually said it to Jackie, who was then my wife. I said, you know, I'm thinking about quitting professional speaking. I mean, I was still working as a judge, so I still had a job. And she said, well, have you achieved what you set out to achieve? And I said, no. She said, well, it's too early to quit. You can't quit if you haven't achieved what you set out to achieve. So here's my point. When you get to those negative situations, those things where you feel like you can't go forward, make sure that you review what your commitment was. You're committed, your promise to show someone, let's say, that it can be done. But also make sure you're surrounded by friends or family who will encourage you to keep moving forward, even when you don't feel like moving forward.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Lourdes Cruz, for kickstarting the Q&A session. Toastmaster Dana, I'm just quickly taking in questions now. We've got one question coming in from Toastmaster Noor Muhammad, joining us from a different district. I would like to request Toastmaster Noor to please unmute yourself, sir, and direct your question directly to Toastmaster Dana Lamon.
Hello.
Yes, Toastmaster Noor Muhammad, we can hear you clearly, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana, for that really inspiring message which you gave us. My question to you is, what is it that you reach when you dig deep inside of you that moves you? What is it that you reach when you dig deep inside of you that moves you?
What I reach is that belief that I can. I think, and I have I think a pretty deep well of I can in me, probably because so many times in my life I heard he can't. And every time he can't. You know, it's kind of like an oyster. It has a little irritant and it put layers and layers of coating to make that irritant go away or smooth it out, and it results in a pearl. So it's this, I can't, he can't, he can't, he can't. Each time there's this layer. What the layer turns out to be for me is, I got to prove them wrong. I got to prove them wrong. I got to prove them wrong. So that's what I reach when I am in that situation where I have to really reach deep. It's, I got to prove them wrong. And whether them could be someone out there, or them could be me even. I have to prove myself wrong. You know, if I have that negative idea of, oh, I can't, or I don't have the energy, or I don't have whatever, the tendency to make the excuse, that's when you have to reach in and get the I can.
What is next for you?
Next for me. You know, recently, I don't know if you're aware of it, I decided to dip into politics. I ran for state senate here in California. I didn't reach the level I needed to reach, which would be in our California primary, you had to be first or second in order to move on to the November general election. And I was third. So state senate is not next for me this year, but there is another position. The local school board has a vacancy. And I think in November, I'll probably run for school board. Just so, I already volunteer at the high school, the local high school. I've been volunteering for 29 years at local high schools. So I think serving on the board of trustees is another contribution I could make to the high school district. And that's what I'll do next.
Thank you, Dave.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Noor Muhammad, joining us from another district, from a different country, all the way just to direct his question to you, Toastmaster Dana. Thank you for that. We have another question coming in from Toastmaster Julius Cruz. He wanted me to direct this question to you directly. His question is as follows, and I quote, He says, how do you approach failure amidst your commitment for excellence?
I am glad that you asked that question, Julius. When you read my resume, when you read my books, when you listen to the intros when I speak, it looks like it's all just easy, clear sailing. But there are things that I failed. And I have developed a speech that I use now. I found it very important to start talking about that so that people are aware. I have a degree in math from Yale, but I failed abstract algebra. And as I tell people, it was abstract to me then, and it's still abstract to me. I worked as a judge for 29 years, but I failed the bar exam twice. I'm the 1992 world champion, but I didn't win every contest I entered. So failure does come. Failure will probably present itself, but it's the failure from which you draw the lesson. If you didn't experience it, you wouldn't know what to do with it. You know, when we were with little children, let's say you got a young child that's around a hot stove, and you tell that child, don't touch, it's hot. And the child still touches. Why? Because they don't understand hot until they experience hot. Well, I feel the same way about failure. We have to experience it to know how to handle it, because it will inevitably come. My son, Anton, I mentioned Anton, who, by the way, I mentioned Anton, who was 14. Anton is now 32. He had his 32nd birthday yesterday. And Anton, he's a dancer, a very successful dancer. And when he was in school in his early days, just about every audition he took, he was chosen. And I said to his mother, I said, you know, Anton needs to be rejected. He needs to experience being rejected in the early stages of his life. So when things don't go quite the way he expects later, he knows how to handle that. So indeed, I told you he was rejected from the Sparks. And that was, I think that might've been his first rejection. But you see, he rose from that, and that's what it takes. So failure, how do you deal with failure or adjust to it? When you make that commitment to excellence, failure just becomes one of those stepping stones to where you need to get.
Excellent. Thank you, Toastmaster Julius, for that question, and thank you, Toastmaster Dana. We've got another question someone would like to ask you directly, but before that, I just want to read out a comment that is there put on the chat box for you, Dana. This is coming in from, I believe this is Toastmaster, if I pronounce her name correctly, Febby Pendon. Febby Pendon says, Judge Dana, thank you for sharing your inspirational life story and your life principles on excellence. I'm sharing your story to my niece. Her name is Carla Pendon, visually impaired at birth. She completed her BS psychology degree. She's also a Toastmaster, and currently she's an advocacy director for people with disabilities at the CFPD. And she's also an anchor over a radio channel. So she's just sharing her inspirational story with you.
Excellent.
All right. I'm going to ask now someone who would like to direct their question directly to you. This is Toastmaster Panos Corel joining us from Greece all the way. Toastmaster Panos, please unmute yourself and direct your question to Toastmaster Dana Lamon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the floor to ask Dana a question directly. And thank you so much, Dana, for all the inspiration you bring to us all the way from the US now to me personally in Greece. It is a bit over 6 a.m. today, and what a start to the day this has been. Thank you for being the most motivational start to me being a better me today than I was on the 18th of May, which was yesterday.
Very good.
Dana, what you talk about, choosing growth and finding the opportunity to grow within the crisis, within the challenges, continuous learning and experiencing new things, all of them make sense to me. And that is the best compliment I can come up with. And it is meant as a compliment. It makes sense to me. I resonate with the way you think. So my question, only a pleasure. My question to you, Dana, is I have come to understand, I consider myself a junior Toastmaster since 2014 and so on, but I've come to understand how the process of mastering the art of speaking, and mastering is a continuous process. You never truly master it, but you master in the art. Then this process shapes the way I think. I can attest to that fact. It is true. And when I see the results that this has given you, then I'd like to take this opportunity and learn from you, to ask you to put it in your hands. How has the art of speaking and this craft shaped the way you think, together with your experiences, together with your life wisdom, together with your everything you've gone through your entire life journey? But this has had an impact on you, and I know that. But can you please now draw from your experience and put it in your own words, and in a way tell all of us junior Toastmasters here what we can expect on this journey we are all in? Thank you, Dana.
Thank you for the question. In the Toastmaster program, they often, in the materials, the original materials, I don't know what the new materials say, whether they maintain that, but they talk about speaking, listening, thinking. Speaking, listening, thinking. And as you develop your oral communication skills, you learn the skills about speaking, structure, storytelling, humor, visual aids, audio aids, body language, all of those things. As you learn about them, then you start listening for them in others when others speak. So then it makes you a better listener. You know what to pick out. And what I find is, even though the speaker may not demonstrate all of those skills, I find as I listen to a speaker, I will impose the skills on them. If you don't give me a structure to your speech, I will put a structure on your speech. If you don't tell me a story, I will think of stories in my life that might equate to it. And then thinking. It really helps in the thinking process for me, especially when I'm preparing a speech, because now I'm thinking in terms of sharing my thoughts in a speech. So I'm thinking, what is the message? I'm thinking, what's the intro for this message? I'm thinking, what structure should I give? So it all fits together. And so as you improve your speaking skills, and you're only going to improve your speaking skills by speaking. You can't improve your speaking skills by sitting and listening to others. I mean, you'll gain some information, but until you actually get up and do it, you know, I can't be an expert carpenter simply by watching YouTube videos as someone else completes a do-it-yourself project. I actually have to get the hammer and the saw and the screwdriver and the nails and the wood and do it myself and learn from the experience. So for speaking, you do have to speak. And as you speak, you test it, you see how it works, then you will, that's how you develop, that's how you sharpen your skill. I like what you said. The mastery is ongoing. To master speaking, it's an ongoing process. It's never finished, because the tool can become dull. To keep the tool sharp, you've got to keep doing it. You have to keep speaking. And I'll tell you this, appearing in this Zoom conference and doing this video, before COVID-19 and as Toastmasters started moving on to more video clubs and video this and video that, I'd say video is not for me. And you can understand that as a blind guy. Video is not for me. I don't care about that video stuff. But I am learning every time I have to appear on a Zoom presentation. I'm learning different things about presenting my message so that you as listeners get the full effect of what I'm preparing in my mind for you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Panos, and thank you, Toastmaster Dana. Respecting your time as well, I'm going to have two last questions. One is coming in from distinguished Toastmaster Nomel Hilongos. He's saying, Dana, world champion of public speaking and accredited speaker just in 2 years. How did you do it?
Well, the results come in 2 years. The preparation for the results take more than 2 years. So remember, I listened to my first international speech contest 1989. I entered 1990. So World Championship came in 1992. We could call that a 4-year process before we get to the World Championship. Now, the accredited speaker program requires that you give speeches outside of Toastmasters in a professional realm. And you have to have given 25 speeches in the 3 years prior to the filing of your application. So the results come within 12 months of each other, but the preparation had 4 years of laying the foundation.
All right, excellent. All right, I'm going to take last question for today, and this one is coming from Toastmaster Sarah. Toastmaster Sarah, if you're there, please unmute yourself and go ahead. Toastmaster Sarah from 75.
Hello, good morning, or I think good evening to you, Toastmaster Dana. It was such a pleasure to hear you speak. It's amazing. One word, amazing. Thank you so much for everything that you shared today. It has really deeply inspired me. I was actually just wondering, as a person who also upholds excellence in a high value in my life, I was wondering, how do you actually deal with people or work with people who do not necessarily have the same values as you do, who do not uphold excellence as much as you do? How can we motivate them to be more excellent?
I would say, Sarah, thank you for the question and the compliment. I would say it's just a matter of continuing to live your example. Don't compromise what you're committed to. You raise a very, very important issue. In order for me to do my job as a judge, I had to hire an assistant, and my assistant did my reading for me and did my driving, and in the initial years did the proofreading of my decisions. And every time I hired a new assistant, I had to give a lecture about excellence, that my commitment to excellence and what I do depends on my ability to proceed in excellence depends on his or her willingness to proceed in excellence. if he or she compromises excellence, then my result is also compromised. And unfortunately, we do find ourselves from time to time working with people who don't have the same commitment. And I say you simply have to continue living your example. You cannot force excellence on anyone. You can't make them excel. If they are satisfied with mediocrity, you can't change that other than to continue living your example, to stay true to your commitment, and hope that their observing you will turn them around or change their mind.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sarah, joining us from the Philippines, 675. And thank you, Toastmaster Dana. I have one here, last question. I'll try to make it very small so that we give opportunity to everyone. The question goes like this, Toastmaster Dana. The question is coming in from Toastmaster Epraline Salu. Toastmaster Epraline, if you can hear us, please go ahead and ask your question as quickly as possible. Okay, Toastmaster Epraline, if you're there,
I'm
yes.
sorry. I thought you will be. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I thought Toastmaster Rafi will be the one to share the question. Okay, I'll just read my question a bit faster. It was great to hear your message, your personal story, and your personal experience, Toastmaster Dana, and I was very inspired with your story. And my question is, what is your day routine to make your day productive and to always make yourself better than yesterday?
It's important to review your day. One of the things that I do, now understand, I mean, I give the impression that like every day is maximum. That's not true. There's some days that I'm not productive at all. And, but I, in general, think as I wake up in the morning, I think, what is it that I want to accomplish today? And then I set out, how can I accomplish that? How do I use my time to make sure that that happens? But I also find myself, I will find some quiet time. Maybe it's late at night, maybe it's early in the morning. And I think about, okay, what am I doing? And should I be doing something different? Am I using my energies best? How do I take advantage of it? And that's, for example, that's why I'm appearing here on the Zoom. I mean, I'm a motivational speaker. I'm accustomed to traveling around the world and speaking, and I can't do that right now. So do I just wait until I can do it? Or do I continue to share via video, even though video is not my favorite medium? And so I think that's what you have to do. You make for yourself, and I'm not so much of a person that says write the list down. I don't say write a list, but some people need to write a list so they can check it off. But think about, what is it that I want to accomplish today, and how can I do it? You know, it's like the same as saying yes to the possibilities, because once you say yes to it, then you find the way to make it happen.
All right. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Epraline. Thank you, Toastmaster Dana. Some comments. I just want to read it out to you very quickly. Toastmaster Noor Mohammed says, excellent answer, Dana. Only by setting an example can one inspire others to adopt another perspective. And then you have Toastmaster Ferrari GTB saying, better than yesterday, we all should be. I like to recommend a YouTube channel by the same name. Right. And also, Toastmaster Dana, I asked you this before I give the control to you for your closing remarks. I asked you this last time you were at an event. I cannot find your World Championship winning speech on YouTube. There is no link to any of these videos. I even searched on Toastmasters International if they have any of these archives on anywhere. I cannot find your World Championship winning speech of 1992, Toastmaster Dana. So you need to share it with us.
Found it. It's not there.
Oh,
but it's good that you search for it. Let me tell you that in the copyright world, I can prepare a speech. I prepare a speech. I write a speech. Let's say I have the copyright to that speech. I deliver the speech and I have the copyright to the delivery of the speech. But if you record the speech, you have a copyright to the recording of the speech. Well, at the time that I competed in 1992, there was a company that had there's a company that recorded the presentation. Back in those days, Toastmaster hired the company to record the World Championship. And that company holds the copyright to that recording. And they will not put it on the internet. They want you to buy it. And the same for me. I mean, I asked if I could put a link to it or upload it onto my website. And the answer was you could do like a 1-minute piece, but you can't do the whole thing. So that's why it's not there. I will try to contact the company again and see what the requirements are, because I did hear your comment on Saturday, and yeah. So I am thinking about it. Maybe I have to pay some sum to have the rights to put it on my website, and I just might do that, since Rafiq who searched the world looking for the speech. I want to make sure he finds it the next time he searches.
Excellent. Someone was just commenting here, a veteran Toastmaster from the Philippines, distinguished Toastmaster Nomel, says, it's by Bill Stevens' production and it's on a VHS tape, and he has it, he says.
Yeah, I have it on VHS tape. I definitely have it myself, but I don't want to break the law and post it until I get permission from the company to do so. And as I said, the last time I inquired, I was not given permission to do so.
All right, Toastmaster Dana, we would like to hear your closing comments for all of us, and because we love you so much, we love having you here so much. And one thing I would love to do is have you visit the Philippines so we can show you the Philippines hospitality, first-hand experience of the Philippines hospitality, and to share you at a bigger stage, probably when this entire pandemic is done with. And we would love to host you in the Philippines directly, sir. And now I would like to ask you to give us your closing remarks.
It would be my absolute pleasure to visit the Philippines. No question about it. And so as soon as we can work that out, let's do that. As I said, I came committed to excellence as a youngster, thanks to my neighbor and her willingness to give me jobs to do that other people wouldn't, and her quoting the poem. It has been many years, over 50 years since then. The way that I have made it through doing what I've done is to commit myself to excellence. Remember, that wasn't a commitment to perfection. I haven't been perfect. I haven't, although I'll joke about being perfect, I haven't been perfect. And I've made mistakes. But I've also committed that there's something I want to accomplish in my life. I do want to make my life meaningful. And I found that this commitment of excellence helps us to do it. We initiated this conference with the idea that greatness is your being, excellence is your doing. And I do believe that we all have been born to be great. There's a seed of greatness that has been planted in each of us. And what happens is the cultivation of that seed. What do we do with it? Did we let it dry out? Did we allow other things to bury it or choke it to death? Were we led away from our greatness because of distractions? The greatness is there, that's your being. And to manifest that being, excellence is your doing. So notwithstanding the fact that it might have been dormant, you can bring that greatness alive again. You can weed out those distractions to reveal that greatness. if you are willing to commit yourself to excellence, bearing in mind, we're going full circle back to principle number one. To excel is to do better today than you did yesterday. Thank you.
Wow, as I said to you, it's like listening to a book, you know, every word with so much wisdom put into it, and I really love it. And it's something which you can close your eyes and listen to it and say, okay, this is an audio book by Dana Lamon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Our pleasure having you. And until we find another opportunity to pull you towards us in order to probably open that tap of wisdom one more time and drink from it, sir. Until then, thank you so much. We love you. Love from all the audience and attendees here today to you, joining from different parts of the world. We have attendees from Greece, from Qatar, some of them joining from Bahrain, from the Philippines, someone from China, all of them sending their love to you, sir. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Love to all of you.
All right, sir. Thank you. All right. So that brings us to the end of our episode number 3 in our Stay Home Skill Up series. And those of you who are following us for our volume 2 episodes, our next episode is featuring yet another world champion. Our episode featuring the next world champion will be aired again on the same platform, which is Division K. And I would like to introduce you all to this episode, which is going to be featuring the world champion of public speaking 1996. And that is none other than Toastmaster David Nottage. So David Nottage will be featured in episode number 4. And we will soon be adding a link and a poster to the details of the event when the episode 4 is going to be. Watch out for the Facebook page of District 75, Division K, under District Director Adrenaline Paul's Facebook page wall. Or you can also follow my Facebook page wall, and I will also be posting the details. So we will see you all again one more time for episode number 4. Again, on behalf of all the attendees here today, on behalf of District 75, on behalf of Division K, thank you so much, Toastmaster Dana Lamon, for your wealth of wisdom that you've shared with us today. On this note, I would like to ask our Division K Director, Toastmaster Adrenaline, to give us your closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Rafi. First of all, I want to say thank you, Toastmaster Dana, for gracing our event. It's really an honor and privilege for us here in Division K. Upon hearing your message, very inspiring. It reminded me the reason why we really have started these episodes, because we really wanted to give excellent educational training in my division, Division K, District 75, and the entire district, whole world in Toastmasters. And your message is really something that touched me this morning, and just go for excellence. So fellow Toastmasters, everything that we do, we must do with excellence. And here in Toastmasters, we are made to become leaders and pursue excellence, and always remember that excellence is something that will bring us to our success. And I remember that this pandemic, this crisis that we are experiencing right now is not an hindrance for us not to pursue and achieve our own personal goals of becoming proficient speakers and leaders. And thank you for Toastmaster Dana for reminding us this morning. So once again, fellow Toastmasters, I would like to invite you to our 4th episode featuring David Nottage. That will be on May 22, Friday, 10 a.m. I will post the link on my page in Division K and also Toastmaster Rafi page. Check on that. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you. We love you, Toastmaster Dana. Thank you so much. So fellow Toastmasters, as Division K Director, I officially adjourn this webinar. So
all right, let us now we still have the presence of Toastmaster Dana. Let us on our videos so we can have a very quick grid picture. So we capture this moment with Toastmaster Dana. And someone is clicking this picture, I believe, Division K Director, or is it me?
You, please.
Oh, okay, it's me. Which means I have to turn my video off and do this. All right. So I see all lovely videos on. I see some of them missing. District 75 PRM Nomel Hilongos, a district leader, your video is off, sir. Please turn on your video so we can see your lovely face as well. Okay, excellent. And also Toastmaster Lourdes, I don't see your video. Calling on once, twice, and thrice. I'm gonna go for the print screen.
I cannot.
Excellent. All right. Dena Lamon joining us all the way in the Philippines. Screen number 1. Smile, please. Oh, lovely smile coming in from Toastmaster. Calm. Okay. And going into screen number 2. 1 and 2 and 3. Smile, all of you. Lovely smile. Oh, we've got a young Toastmaster also. With Toastmaster Pooja Chanda. Thank you so much, our young Toastmaster. Okay, do we have screen 3? Let me see.
Mag-diet.
2 and 3. Oh, lovely smile from Ferrari GTV.
Food, no?
And a lovely smile coming in from Toastmaster Andrea Santiago. Thank you so much. And Toastmaster Erica Bailey. Thank you. All right, lovely having you all. Join us again, and lovely to host you all one more time for episode number 4. Thank you, Toastmaster Dana. Have a great evening. We love you so much. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Isipin mo after 10 years may ganitong pera ka na. Hindi mo yan magagawa kung uubusin mo lang yung pera mong baon sa pagbili ng lunch. Tumagdag na sa bill. Wala pa nangyari. Yes. And pwede ka na magbaon dito. Magluto ka ang itlog. Yan ang baon.